Welcome to Culture of Paint. On this episode, we're going to take a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. For our main segment, we're going to talk about our recent experiences at Golden Demon UK 2022. We'll close the show out as normal, taking a look at what the hashtag PaintCultists have been up to. Our Culture of Paint's aimed at a mature audience, and we might use adult language and explicit language and discuss adult themes. Let's talk about paint. And we are back on. Lots of lovely echoing. The chat's all there, having a good old natter. The best thing against day Golden Demon was meeting Mike McVeigh. Yes, obviously. I mean, that would be we don't want to do clickbait titles or the rest of it. So chat's there, everyone's there. Hello, everyone. It's Henry here, and joining me is Matt, Andy, and Ben. How you doing, gents?
Pretty good, mate.
Pretty good.
Good stuff. Right. Been waiting for this one. Been excited.
We need to fill you in.
I know. I've tried not to ask too much, so I can approach it like anyone else who wasn't there and grill you all about it. But because we want to spend lots of time on a main segment, let's crack on with what's caught our eye in the last couple of weeks, so we can get to it. And I will remember to click on the slides that Matt's prepared.
Yes,
Oh.
my slaving away.
It's the way you tell them, mate. It's the way you tell them.
Where are we? Our War Master Painting. Nice to see Nathaniel there. Some new names. Gavin, defending American champion. Right. What's the first pick, Matt?
So first up is...
Oh, that's fun. So obviously there's been a lot of people posting what they prepped for Golden Demon over the last couple of weeks. But this one really stood out to me. It's a great account. Followed it for a long time. Does a lot of things for the community. And it's just, I don't know. Normally I'm not mad on like effects and things like that, like OSL and all that sort of thing. But it just, I don't know. Just think it's a really great conversion. I love the sort of grimdark comic book kind of vibe they've got going on. I think it's a brilliant use of that head on that model.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
There's cool. So many demon and spawn models now that, you know, if you've got a bit of skills with even, do you know what, even plastic glue will get you a long way now, like just sort of cutting and melting.
Yeah, squishy.
Yeah, squishy, like, you know, but you know, if you've got a little bit of skill with green stuff and whatnot, then you can create some awesome looking things. And yeah, it's really cool. Just like all the colours as well.
He's a great guy. I really like him. Looking forward to seeing him again in Monty. But he does lots of expressive, really interesting pieces, and he seemed very happy to be back at Golden Demon. So I'm glad that you shared this picture.
But it's as well, isn't it? Is there's certain artists that, you know, and probably is more the Europeans, that you see at a lot of shows like Monty or SMC or things like that, and maybe they did Warhammer stuff in the past, but they don't necessarily do a lot of it now, because the stuff that they work on for their shows, those shows, doesn't typically tend to be Warhammer stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Golden Demon rolls around, and all of a sudden, you know, we're getting to see, you know, as we saw with some of the people we'll talk about later, you know, stuff from them that we haven't seen for years and years, and it's wicked to see that I think obviously European take on a lot of stuff.
It's really nice to see.
It's not meant as a generalization at all. Like, I think there's a definite couple of styles. So yeah, that's my pick. A nice. Gribbly.
It me.
About you.
Nice. So
what we got next?
Next up is...
Ooh.
It's me.
Yeah.
This is just mind blowing. I love all his work. I'd love to get a box art for Cult of Paint one day, because I just love everything he does. Love his Warhammer miniatures as well, actually. Like his Space Marines, he really copies some stuff.
Yeah, the
Ultramarine. Yeah.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? I knew I recognised that.
And I have to say a big shout out. If you like this miniature, you can only get it today and tomorrow. So it's a 48-hour job. And it was going to be my pick anyway because of the paint job. But I just remembered, it's only available until tomorrow. So if you're watching and you like the look of it, then get it. Support him. He's a one-man band. And I think this is a really nice sculpt and, unbelievable paint job. So, yeah, love it.
As usual, we'll put links to all the accounts down in the description as well, so you can go and check them out. Just before you carry on, Andy, I want to catch this one in the chat. Someone's asked, what do we mean when we talk about European styles or techniques? That's probably a whole, at least, episode, if not more. And it's something we've got planned to talk about, because it's European is too much of a generalization. There is actually quite certain countries within Europe that have produced their own styles over the years. So we're going to talk about that, get some relevant people on. We will absolutely cover that in a lot more detail. So
there was a lot of talk of that actually, with the people talking about the French styles and the Italian styles and stuff like that, and came up with a lot of the winners. Different styles won, but when we talk about the pieces, I think I'll bring it up again. But the old GDs formed like a real style. I think, and you could tell sort of which country they are from, which is really great. So I think, it's definitely an episode, isn't it? Painting identities. Cool.
But yeah, incredible. There was another similar model, wasn't there?
The Lucas Pina one.
Yeah. Was that an elf on the horse? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'm going to be purchasing this one and not painting it, but I'm going to support.
I really like these cut-off horse busts. I spoke about it a few weeks ago. There was that person did a series of historical ones, which was a bunch of, I think, Polish hussars or something. There was 3 or 4 of them, all there, and just in a very similar cut to this one. It's just really cool. And you haven't got to paint a whole fucking horse.
You do. You need to paint a horse.
Man. You need to paint at least half a horse.
So yeah. Right. What's up next?
So next up is my one. I couldn't not pick this one. It ticks all the boxes. It was so good to see it in the cabinets the last weekend or weekend, whenever it was. Back then, it just
Was it only last weekend? Bloody hell!
Yeah, it just screams, old world fantasy, like 90s White Dwarf.
You could pick it out, couldn't you? If someone said Mike's piece, like give me the category at least. But okay, Mike's piece is an AOS single. You would do that.
What do you think gives it away?
The
checkered flags.
It's the checkered flag. That's the correct answer. It's the checkered flag.
I just think because there's so much extra story in it, the narrative.
The joy of seeing this, like sometimes people do like the homage pieces, don't they? Like you often see, and actually I think someone entered one, didn't they? You often see the classic 2nd edition ultramarine, goblin green base, things like that, and there's always really nice takes on it. There's what's his name, Garthy. I know it does quite a lot of those, and they're all great. But then nothing's going to be literally the
OG,
the originator coming back and dropping a brand piece.
He's been away from the hobby for 20 plus years or something, and he's able to come back in the last like 2 to 3 years and do this. Like,
it's not even that, is it? But it's months, isn't it? We're talking like
I can't really remember. At least a year.
Yeah,
but so and it's just like you got the posters, the rats in the sewer. It's just so good. I just love it.
Good job we weren't judging, because obviously this would have just placed everything. So
people's choice.
It's just so good.
I'm telling you, they need to bring that in.
What do you think about People's Choice?
I think no.
We'll visit that one later.
There used to be this really cool. It was called the Spirit of Warhammer Award. They did it for a couple of years. It was like what best embodied the Warhammer ethos or whatever. That I think that'd be cool to bring back.
Do you mean what entry best encapsulated it?
Yeah, just what it was kind of like it kind of changed a bit like here and there, but it kind of the overall was like what entry was like the most Warhammer.
I don't hate that as an addition. Like they used to do Forge World Best in Show.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't hate that idea. Like sticking.
They've ditched a
sticking
few
that
things, haven't they, over the years? And we don't have the heavy metal category anymore.
That was fairly short-lived, wasn't it? That one.
I think we did what
two or
two,
three? Yeah.
and then they called the next mini. They said it was going to be that Scout Space Marine, which was a big yawn, and they never included it.
Yeah. I don't think any great loss with that one, if I'm honest.
No,
But
it was cool. It was cool a couple times. To be honest, why not have a category for a couple of years and get rid of it?
This is it. That's what we were talking about with MPO stuff, wasn't it? Is having like a guest category. But yeah, sorry, we're going off on a tangent. Incredible model. Mike's incredible. You know our feelings on this person. But yeah, you lucky fuckers getting to see it in the flesh.
Yeah, it was quite special. I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry, not sorry.
So
right. So is it Ben? I think
Yeah.
Well,
was not expecting that.
No, nor me, and that's one of the reasons I picked it. It really stood out to me. I know essentially nothing about the subject matter. Proper nerds, please inform
Dragon
me.
Ball. Yeah. It's classic
okay.
Bulma and Goku.
There you go. See, I've been out nerded. I
knew it was Goku. That was it.
Whatever. But like, regardless of the subject matter, it's really, really cool. We've talked about it before, right? Having a non-fighty piece.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons it grabbed me, especially like post GD. We've seen an awful lot of Games Workshop miniatures. My feed have been full of it. So to see a non-Games Workshop miniature and then one that's not a fighty subject, yeah, just jumped out. Love it. Love the background. Love the colours. Cool.
Lovely backdrop usage.
The backdrop.
Good sky.
Yeah, like it's really that style from the manga and the cartoons. Like it's really on point.
It really fits, doesn't it? Nothing's sort of standing out from each other. It all just gels together really well. Love it. It was really cool.
Don't force a backdrop, people. Only do it when it works.
There you go. From the backdrop master.
two for two so far, mate. That's really cool. Yeah, I was expecting some grimy World War II
historical junk.
Yeah,
not going to lie, me too. But yeah, gotta go with your heart, right? Just jumped out at me.
That's awesome. I don't know that account either. Is it mainly manga type content?
Bit of a mix. It's not one that I followed until I saw this, so it just jumped out at me. I was like, yeah, I'm on that.
That's definitely something I've found is I can't recall many accounts that are quite eclectic when it comes to that, the different styles and settings of sci-fi, particularly East and West. So yeah, kind of need to go and search it out a little bit more. Yeah, nice one, wicked. Right, so good picks, nice. So that's going to bring us nicely on to the main segment time, which is everyone wants to talk about the aftermath. Insert clickbait bullshit here if you want to.
We've got to do our thumbnails.
Right.
You'll never guess what happened at Golden Demon.
Now, there was a big build up to Golden Demon this year. We covered it quite a lot. It's obviously something we're very passionate about as a crew. And after we got our tickets, I sent a little email to Games Workshop and said, look, we're coming along. We'd love to cover it. Can we? Will you let us in with some cameras? And a lot of back and forth. And in the end, they said, yeah, okay. And it was nice. They invited some other hobbyists and some content creators as well, I think, particularly to do the hobby challenge side of it. So we got some coverage there, which is awesome, which is what we want more of, please. And the crew, everybody went up. I think most people entered, certainly on this chat, Andy and Matt were entering. And yeah, we've already sent out a bunch of interviews, which a few of you might have seen us posting on the channel already. But let's take us through it. So, Andy, Matt, Ben, you there? You're in the car. Golden Demon was 17 days long or something this year, correct? So you went
it felt like it.
In advance, packed your jam sandwiches, got ready.
Gloucester services, mate, out of the best bit.
Dream, second best.
Cambridge services.
Shit.
What? Tenbury? Is that the
Cambridge.
other one? Oh, no, mate.
Right. It's not.
Get out of town.
It's not a tangent we're going to go on.
Fine.
Sea-based services obviously is the best service in the UK. But anyway, you're going up on the Friday. Entries can go in from Friday. Is it Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday, I think.
Thursday.
It was mad.
How was that? So the Warhammer World was open as normal, wasn't it? Thursday, Friday. But they had the setup. So those of you that haven't been Warhammer World, you've got a big sort of central hall, which is all decked out like a Warhammer castle, and it was filled with cabinets. So Matt, what was it sort of like as a, as a venue in that sense?
I mean, it was really great. They on the Thursday, Friday, they obviously had the gaming tables and all that still in the middle. So, but then it wasn't that busy, so it didn't really make much difference. But they moved all those out of the way, so you had just the whole hall with the cabinets around the edge, and you could actually breathe like normally around the cabinets. It got busy, but you could still get around to them, which was good.
Great. I remember like going to Golden Demons back in the 90s, and it was always 3 or 4 deep. You were always often looking down rather than the cabinet in front. It was often more like, if you go into a jeweler's, those sort of desks, things on top. So yeah, it was quite tricky. But yeah, it looked like they'd certainly bumped for a lot of cabinets.
There was 20.
Right.
It was full, wasn't it? Every cabinet were full.
Yeah. Everything was pretty packed. Like there was a lot of stuff there for like. There's just a lot of stuff.
Well, of course, Matt and Andy, you guys were at Chicago Golden Demon earlier in the year. I think for that there was 500 odd entries, wasn't there? 500-600.
No, it was close to 800. I think they said.
Hmm.
They did tell me the number.
Yeah,
I
it
just
was. Someone said in the chat, didn't they? One of the organisers was there, but I can't. It was. But how did it feel? Because I mean, I know when you showed me the photos of the empty cabinets in preparation. I was a little bit nervous about it because, as has been discussed here and elsewhere, that it was a ticketed event in the. I mean, it's always a ticketed event, Golden Demon, but it was a limited ticketed event. There was discussion about how would that affect things, especially with some people there attending to view the models rather than enter. But it looked like it filled up pretty well.
I think there was
over those 2 days.
Easily over 1,000 miniatures in the cabinets. Easily.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, you had the extra cabinets, right, of the 35th anniversary.
That was
my
very
favourite part.
So for those of you that might not be aware, this was the 35th anniversary of Golden Demon. So they sort of said, we want to put together a little snapshot of it all. And I think, Matt, you helped out a fair bit with this, with the spreadsheet came out, and there was plenty of memorabilia and nostalgia going up in there. And I think the team did a hell of a job, actually, didn't they, putting that together?
Yeah.
I've seen some brilliant photos.
It would have made sense if I'd put some slides up for it, wouldn't
it? Well, we'll get some footage out of it, and I'm sure Warhammer community will as well. And a lot of it you can still go and see up at the exhibition hall.
It's there to the 15th of January, so you got 3 months odd.
But I mean, what was it? What was it like? What goes into it?
There's just
a lot of Slayer Sword winners from the past 20 years, more than 20 years. There was Sopa's original tank, so you could go and look at his original tank in real life. I've never seen it, and then walk across and see his one he made 32 years on. But some classics I'd seen, because I remember when they won, stuff like Rich Gray's sword winning bits and bobs, and then God, I can't remember, but there was so many legends.
Victoria Lamb had shipped across from Australia the Rescuer Joan and the Fiery Angel, the Killer Can with the Seraphim thing, in the post all the way from Oz. I'm like, you're crazy.
She posted that?
Yeah, she posted it in a box.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I assumed it had been there the whole time.
No, it had just arrived a few days earlier, which was unlucky. But yeah, it was amazing to see that.
That St. Joan one, I mean, that was in one of our first ever episodes, wasn't it? I think we didn't talk about
first use of
Demon game changers or something. Yeah.
It was great to see in real life. Still bang.
I mean,
it was bonkers to see stuff that we've seen in books for years and years, and then it's there. It's right in front of your face. It's that like the nostalgia trip thing was bonkers.
And I imagine particularly some of the older stuff, right, where it's maybe it wasn't the super iconic piece, and therefore you're not constantly thinking about it, but it was from a time where it's not all over Instagram and constantly referenced.
Exactly.
You know, a few bits snuck in there. Like I think there was a few of the Matt Parks dioramas in there.
Yeah,
right?
he brought his the two pieces he has. He has the 2010 giant on the bridge Slayer sword, and his 95, the outpost number 5 thing, the Catachans and the Orcs.
That's still for me. That's golden.
So good
right there. That Catachan outpost, yeah. The Orc outpost, rather, yeah. God damn.
Albert's Orc actually was Albert's Slayer Sword Orc from.
I didn't know it was so big.
From when he was. But that I've never seen that in real life, and that was really nice to see. I don't know what was the year, Matt? 2006.
Something around there.
Teenage Albert, right?
It was It was like in a case on a table when I walked into the first time, and it was just there on its own, no one around. I was just like, hey, I recognise that. And then because I thought it was a lot smaller, and I was quite surprised just how massive the thing was. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
Well, let's get some pretty looking slides up, because obviously as awesome as it will be to hear about all the things that you got to see, let's actually see some great things. So entries, categories themselves, I think that's what we're going to go through, isn't it? A couple of highlights, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
So one thing I think's worth touching on, I'll touch on the judging in a bit, actually. Let's look at some pretty pictures for a while. Oh, speaking of amazing scratch-built orcs.
This was so good in real life. I cannot... And I think this is one of the biggest ones. I think maybe people are like, okay, why was this one gold? Because, you know, silver and bronze look so phenomenal as well. What tipped this one to the gold? And I just can't tell you how detailed it was. I was like... wow, the tongue alone, if it was double the size, I couldn't be doing it. There's so much on it. It was just amazing.
Well,
the amount of detail on it kind of hides its scale. When you see the photos on the screen, you don't really appreciate that level of detail until you see it in real life, right?
Smaller than a Space Marine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks
sculpted
huge.
Years ago, right?
Yeah.
12 years old sculpt, yeah.
That's it, the green.
Just what a talent. It's just outrageous.
And Maxi defending sword champion? Yeah, he was.
Yeah, 2019, yeah.
I'm going to keep saying that because I really want it to catch on. But it's
Defenders.
Defending champion and all that.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him. You know, he did that incredible troll. What do you do next? And I imagine that... he'll be working on something bigger for the next piece, but it's really cool to see him win 40k single, which is so different from like large AOS. But the detail was bonkers, and seeing it in real life was one of those real ones that this is loads better than the pictures. If people are wondering,
Matt was saying he didn't realise Albert's orc was so big. You know, I had the opposite with this. I'd seen these pics the day or so before, and I assumed it was going to be in open and it was going to be large scale and this, that, and, and then you sent me a pic on the phone and it was this teeny tiny. You know, great photo as well. To be fair,
there's some good ones.
Photo. That's there's sometimes quite well deserved criticism, I think, of the photos we get out of GW for things. But the ones I've seen from so far from Golden Dim have been fantastic.
Yeah, one big duffer, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about the good stuff. I mean that we'll probably say it a few times, but this surely was a sword contender. Like, seeing that.
I mean the worst thing is the silver single figure was a sword contender. You know what I mean? It's just like. Somebody who I won't be naming, but somebody who might have been involved in the judging said some commended stuff would maybe be a sword in another year, which is mental.
But great to hear. You know, there was some concern, wasn't there? You know, I think we perhaps didn't buy into it, but there was some concern beforehand that, you know, was the quality going to be there? You know, what was it going to be like? And I mean, every single painter I've spoken to that was there was like, this is the best standard I've seen, or, you know, one of the strongest I've ever been at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I asked those in the you know, in the interviews, and I was genuinely not doing it just for the interview, but when you've got someone like Dave Soper, I'm like, Dave, you know, tell me, like, you know Golden Demon more than me. Is this the best you've seen? And that was really, really nice to talk to people who really care about Golden Demon, have been to it all. Would probably be quite critical if it was a small and weak one, you know, not like sucking up to Golden Demon. They were like, yeah, this is insane. And I think a lot of, not naysayers, but some people who might have been like, oh, Golden Demon's lost it in terms of, you know, how prestigious this is, were like, okay, yeah.
It was easily the most fiercely contested in the last good few years. Like, just every category was just stacked.
There were definitely some. I think some of the categories were insanely strong. 40k single being one of them, and I do think some of the categories were normal, or actually there's been stronger ones in previous years. So I don't think consistently it was absurd, but I think the level of 40k single, AOS single, diorama, and dual really elevated the overall feel of the competition, probably due to the number of possible Slayer Sword winners rather than like every category.
That's it, right? As you said, I mean, it's probably hard when you've got 12 categories or whatever for there to be a, you know, a objectively best year ever thing. But I guess what you guys seem to be saying is that from a sheer volume of potentially sword winning miniatures in one room, it was very high up, right?
I think as well that we've talked about it before, about because of the internet, people are braver, and that was what I noticed about Golden Demon as well. People were a lot braver and elaborate, and I think that's a really cool thing that's come from the internet in the last 3 years. And you know, people said people have leveled up and got better, and it's not necessarily just the technical painting. It's, I think, the creativity's there, and yeah, I think people are just bolder with the stuff they do.
Well, let's touch on that right now. Then you've mentioned the creativity thing. Looking at the winners and looking at the you know, the pieces that have placed, but also looking at a lot of all the other incredible paint jobs that were there that people posted of their own work. It feels very eclectic, the styles. Like sometimes I've looked at Golden Demon in the past, and there's been one or two pieces that may have stood out for being a different style that have placed. But a lot of the time they seem to have that slightly drier, more technical focused angle, right? And that's not a criticism, it's simply an observation of that style of painting, right? But this one really struck me as an observer as being far more eclectic when it came to interpretations and styles that we were seeing.
A lot of people have said that they're excited how Golden Demon is evolving and becoming more open to different styles. But whenever I've spoken to some judges, they've said in a nutshell they're looking for the best. And the you know, the best stuff might be in a certain style, but if it's the best miniature, it's the best miniature, and that's what it feels like in this show. And I think you look at the open category, which we'll look at with Tom's bust. That's a very different style in the skin, completely different to like Albert's style. And actually, even looking at this 40k single, so you got first and you got second here. The styles are wildly different. And they've awarded both.
But this is significant, right? This isn't something we've seen lots of, is it? Traditionally, like
maybe,
and you know, that it's a good thing, right? I'm not trying to be negative about it, but if that's a conscious thing the judges are saying, and they're saying to you, that's really positive, right? Because there is a distinction between Golden Demon as a competition and other very large, successful painting competitions, right, around the world.
Yeah. Mm.
But it does feel like that's partly with the introduction of fantasy stuff being way more prevalent in those competitions, as we spoke about when we had Robert on from SNC. But on the flip side, as you're saying now, you know, perhaps a broader acceptance of and celebration of styles in GD itself, right?
Well, the number of winners that aren't heavy metal style was massive.
Yeah.
And it shows that they are open, and it's not about. And I think we're going to do a whole episode on busting myths, which Albert actually shared in his stories, and that really hit home for us. But yeah, you don't have to paint the heavy metal style. You just got to paint really well. And Chris's piece, the Slayer Sword winner, isn't heavy metal style at all. And that's another style that's very different to this piece from Albert, and again from Maxime. So, you know, let's the three of the best painters, Chris Clayton, Albert, Maxime Pinot, they have all won Slayer Swords, and they're all wildly different styles. And they all placed in this competition, which is cool.
Very cool. I really enjoyed that Albert interview, talking about his two single pieces being
different times,
and the long lost descendant, as it were, of one or whatever.
There's an interesting theme that
I like his.
Christian's just asked in the chat, do we think GW's opening up more on NMM and OSL pieces and gives the bases more weight? So let's split that out. Bases.
Whoa! I'm a bit confused by the question, actually.
So, well, let's break it down into a couple then. In the past, we've spoken about how basing is not can damage a piece, right? But it's never going to make a piece win at Golden Demon. To be very blunt about it, right? And there's more nuance to it than that, obviously. But that's something that we've experienced in the past, right, and spoken about. It seemed to be there was an awful lot of really creative basing again this year. You know, everyone's, if you haven't got a plinth, don't turn up. You know, Tara wants to go on holiday, so if you don't pick them up, you can't go.
Tara wants a speedboat.
Yeah, Tara wants a speedboat. So, what was that like there? Is that a fair reflection of, you know, what we're seeing online, what it was like there?
Well, I think, you know, it's do you think GW's opening up on NMM and OSL? I think they've always been open to those.
Well, yes, that would have been the second part of the question. Yeah, I think that's always been a thing.
And it's just what suits the piece, and is it done well? And there's no bias towards non-metallic metal or true metallic metal. Absolutely no bias at all. It's just what's done the best, right? And they're definitely open, and they like OSL, but it's if it's done well.
Yeah.
And I think these things kind of come from, you know, to be blunt, someone enters something with loads of OSL and it's not that great, and that's why it doesn't win. Not because it's got that technique. It's the level.
Yeah, and I think it's quite easy in the online. You often see gimmicks used, and you know you get that echo chamber thing, don't you? Sometimes where people will absolutely wank themselves silly about a piece, where actually it's just a technique or whatever, and it's as you're saying, not necessarily that well executed. Online, everybody's banging a like button. It's fine. You chuck it into a competition and actually have to have it objectively critiqued.
Or online, you also have to take into account that photos can enhance things beyond what they actually look like. Until you hold it in the hand, you can't compare it.
And vice versa with the skink. And the skink was on display, and lots of people.
Gavins.
Yeah. And I was really happy, you know, people like Rich Gray said to me, I've seen the skink in real life. It's amazing. And it's like, yeah, it was. And also, you know, another thing after the skink one was people like, they only want technical painting. They only want normal heavy metal schemes. And it's like, no, it was just the best thing at that show. And the jewel with the giant is nothing like the skink again. It's just, look at these different styles that we're seeing. It's just what's the best.
Ben, in a nutshell, someone's asking in the chat, what is OSL?
So object source lighting. So it's how light gets played across the surface of a miniature. So you might have a miniature standing next to a fire or a lantern or just the natural light from, say, the sun, and then the glow that casts, the shadows that it creates. Yeah, look at the Victoria lamp pieces. Like, as Matt said earlier, they were kind of the first ones that we really saw with it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's good fun. It's something people get obsessed with, which is great. Yeah,
I think it is something you can get quite obsessed with, and it's for me when I started. I've done it a few times on pieces, but it's quite a steep learning curve. Well, how hard can that be? And yeah, quite a bit.
And then you airbrush half your model yellow and think, well, that looks great.
Blast it yellow.
It's not working.
Nailed it.
This piece we're looking at has quite a bit of it in. Maybe there's a slight distinction between what you'd call environmental lighting, but the green of the Dark Angel helmet is in the bottom of the moon. The orange is in the smoke, and there's loads of subtle use of it in this miniature. But yeah, I don't think they've ever been closed off to any technique. It's just what's the best
application of that technique, isn't it?
Yeah,
such a cool model. And I love.
Let's look at more.
I love that what's his name, the Grot Shaman. You know, that model came out when I was in the hobby first time round. I love that it's won this year.
That I love seeing the greens. Obviously, this is the yellow because it's milliput. And I'm desperate to see Chris Clayton's giant because I think it's going to be disgusting how much of it's sculpted.
He needs to post it like really bad.
But you know it's going to be like both of the giant arms are going to be purely sculpted.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, converted that, and it's like, but yeah, that's going to be mostly putty, I reckon, those arms. But we'll talk about that. Oh, I love this.
Oh, here we go. Little Eldar sneaking in.
I said look out for this, didn't I? Chuffed. Really pleased for Thibaut here. His first Golden Demon, and I think he had quite a few pieces, but he smashed it with this one, I think.
There's quite a bit of conversion going on as well, isn't there?
Yeah. What I like the best is how the face is painted, and I think it's actually what you said, Henry. It's a European style face, and just little bits like how he's picked out the muscle here in the eye. Is really realistic, and I was really happy to see that sort of thing appreciated. So yeah, it's fantastic. I wish this was mine.
You're right on that conversion. I love it when conversions are as subtle, like when you just assume that's how the miniature was.
When you don't know it's a conversion.
Yeah. Right? And actually, there's very few Warhammer models that are a relaxed pose. You know, generally, give me some rocks, legs akimbo, shouting. You know, it's not that common, is it? And you get this lovely. Don't get me wrong, there's a few of them, but it's just it's you know, sometimes we talk about backdrops, don't we? And things like that, and how they can add to a piece. But there's sometimes people will do a piece that doesn't need it, and you instantly know exactly what's going on behind where that character is, don't you? You can see for miles around that more. They don't need to put backdrop and stuff. Yeah, they just nailed it. And I love the base.
Someone's just quickly asked, are conversions mandatory, or can people win with a stock model? You can win a Slayer Sword with a stock model.
Yeah. It's just the quality, right? Yep. I think conversions happen just because people want to be creative. Like I would do them just because I want my own little spin on it. But I know it's not compulsory, right? It's just so it feels a little bit more like yours or your vision, right? But yeah, it's definitely not
a very set vision for a piece, and it's not quite there in the off-the-shelf miniature.
Some weirdos think that you shouldn't convert and that it's frowned upon. These are the Chinese whispers that kind of get out, isn't it? It's like, oh, you can't convert and you can't scratch build. Says you can in the rules.
Yep.
Don't read the rules.
Always been that way.
No, do read the rules.
Yeah.
Right, what's up on the next slide? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So, icons, iconic pieces. A model that we've seen whips of now for 3 years.
20. Yeah, he started it like really going into it like 2019 or 2020. But I'm kind of glad that
David has a brilliant blog.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of. I'm glad that it didn't happen because I don't think it would have been as good if it had been rushed. Like that time that he had over the 2020, 21, 22 sort of thing really pushed it quite far.
I don't think he'd ever have rushed it ever. I think
No.
he's too strong. That's what I admire the most about David, and I always think of him in that inspiration for me is that he just keeps going until it's right, and that's why his minis have the best finish. And I think, to be honest, this model had the best finish probably out of everything, and it was massive. I mean, it's just mental how immaculate. I'm painting a tiny Lord of the Rings mini at the moment, and I can't get any bit of it as immaculate as this
That's
model.
A very good word for describing his pieces. Actually, immaculate.
Yeah, everything is where he wants it to be, and that's why again you need to see it in real life. But yeah, Dave's a great bloke. He's a force for the hobby. Very open with sharing all his techniques and stuff like that. And it's cool that he just did a piece for him, and not everyone's going to love the look of it or get it, but it's completely irrelevant because it's for him, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and he's doing Eldar next, which is always my fave, Dave. So.
Yeah, it was a very much a personal itch project getting this because obviously it was supposed to be his 30 years from his first sword in the 90s, and then like this one would have been 2020 would have been 10 years from his like return to Golden Demon, 10 years even, and yeah, very very much a personal project, which like you said, not a lot of people might get it, but for him, he gets it.
Well, it just feels like it's like he genuinely is just doing it because he wants a mini this good. Like there's no tactics for him. I'm gonna do this to win the sword, because it's not a good tactic, is it, to do a massive, insane like Nurgle tank conversion that's kind of almost retro looking because it's homage to his 30-year-old model. That's not a tactic to win, and he's painting it as good as he can not to win because he wants it to look like that. And I just think that's really cool. And I really enjoyed doing that interview with him. Could chat to him for hours, as I'm sure you'll agree, Henry, when he did his workshop. It's just
it's still one of the best couple of days I've ever had that. So I'm sure we'll get Dave on in the future. I'd love to. So
it's
if you ever get a chance to get in one of his classes, go. His blog's brilliant. I thought it was really telling as well. The two interviews you did with David and with Chris, both of them talking them about how the pieces aren't for competition in the sense of they aren't there to go and win. They are there to go and be displayed, to be exhibited. And if they get judged, they get judged. And that's the nature of a competition. But I don't know whether that comes with experience, time going to them, and in David's case, been there, won that 4 times, whatever it is. How many swords he got, Matt?
5.
Right. So the man has literally nothing to prove in if awards are a thing to you. He's got nothing to prove. But it felt like everyone else I've spoken to, when they've talked about David's piece and when they've talked about Chris's piece, there's been nothing but joy for them having done them. There was no professional jealousy. There was no, there was nothing like that. It was all people wanted was for them to succeed with these incredible pieces and to see these incredible pieces. And it was very interesting listening because I talk to friends now who are a lot more cutthroat competitive painters, right? They have got tactics. They get anxious or whatever when they hear somebody else is going to compete. Things like that, and I'm sure it's like that in professional sport and any other competitive outlet. But I did think it was quite telling. That those two just sort of
It's
just cruise in.
a very
to
different mindset,
iconic
isn't it?
things, yeah.
Like, and it's very, they paint for themselves, no one else. You can't buy them, you can't get them to do anything that you would want them to do. They will do what they want to do, end of. If it happens to coincide with a contest, then cool.
I certainly feel I'm getting that way with my old age. But I definitely wasn't like that at the
I've
beginning.
seen that change in you in the last 2 years, maybe.
It's COVID, mate. I think I proved to myself in COVID. I think I did my best miniatures, and there was no show in sight. And I think, and then Techless was definitely for me. And I was painting it, and I was like, they're gonna hate this. Like, this isn't gonna go down well at Golden Demon at all. But then I was chatting to Ben at the time, like through the process, and I was like, I think they'd like it more if I edge highlighted this, but I don't want an edge highlight on it. And you're just like, okay, cool. Yeah, I feel fine about this. I'm definitely painting this for me. So yeah, didn't help, but yeah, sometimes I guess you do a piece and you don't necessarily want it to win, but you want it to be as best as you can for you, and the show can motivate that. And I think that's probably what
absolutely. And I'm not necessarily trying to disparage people that are going at it ultra competitively. Everyone's got a hobby, right? So one's better than the other, and obviously it is a scale, isn't it? Everyone sits somewhere along it, where it is. But I did think it was telling that both of those guys in their interviews, it was very clear that was not, winning wasn't the driving factor, or if it was, they did incredibly well to hide it.
I think one thing I was going to say, I think one thing that's really important is it's almost a shame that this didn't get the sword, and that wasn't Dave's intention. But I think a lot of people felt, come on, this is a sword piece, right? Because we didn't see any whips from Chris, and we saw everything of this, and the 4 years of work, all that stuff. But it actually doesn't matter, right? Because nobody cares that it got the sword. Everyone's like, Dave's tank's epic. And that's what's important. He's happy with it, and everyone knows the piece and loved it. And it's kind of irrelevant that it got the sword, right? And I think that's what a lot of people should take away when you go to Golden Demon, because there's only 3 spots, and it doesn't mean that you've done a bad piece. Exactly. I mean, the amount of people who are well known, who did amazing pieces, like Arnau's diorama comes to mind. That was amazing. And that didn't get anything, and it's brilliant. It doesn't matter. It didn't get an award. It just doesn't.
Absolutely. Right, what's up next?
Yeah. I really wanted to talk about this because, one, John's an awesome guy and maybe a lesser known painted, but it's insanely detailed. John put so much care into every tiny bit. And I was looking at his whips on Instagram, and I was looking at the forearm, and there's tiny blue veins that you can barely see that blend into the blue bits on the claw. And it's just mental. And yeah, it's one of those that maybe when you look on the internet, you're like, that's all right. Why did that win? I think some people might think that, but when they called his name to win, I was like, yeah, they've picked that because in real life they've looked at it. And he's done, what was it? He did the squad, which is the Poxwalkers.
Yeah.
I was looking at his close-ups on his Instagram again, and the eyes are insane on every Poxwalker. It won in the squad category, and I was like, every eye's got like color, like different colors because they're all messed up zombies. And yeah, they're insanely detailed, those Poxwalkers. Like, there's no way I would want to put that much attention into detail in those, like, that chaff. So yeah, fair play to him. But yeah, this is a model I don't think we've ever seen painted, this 4-draw model. And
no, lovely to see it. Like, very, very unusual to see this model ever.
Exactly right.
It was sort of an aborted range, very different to any other Warhammer Chaos we've seen. Yeah, just really cool to see it pop up in it would be like seeing a Famir or something like that, pop up in fantasy. It's is you've got to be a real niche nerd to know that miniature, which I think, considering it's Games Workshop, that's pretty cool, right? To be able to drop a mini in like that into the competition.
I had no
That's
clue what mini it was. I'd never seen it before.
There you go.
Looks kind of like a golden demon, to be fair.
Yeah. Were there any
Does.
particular miniatures that featured a lot? Frequently, any character models, or was there, say, a lot of? I'm just trying to think what's come out in the last year or two. Was there a lot of Black Templars in Space Marines? Was there?
There wasn't a lot of Space Marines.
No,
We saw one Bellicor.
One Bellicor. There's two, I think. Two Bellicor.
but nothing that I'm thinking back to the year of the Leviathan. There was anything.
It didn't feel like that.
No.
It felt like a lot of real mix of stuff. Like, I can't think of many duplicates. I think there was another duel which had the same giant in as the Slayer sword, and I almost felt bad for the guy because it was fantastic, to be honest. It would have placed most years, I think. It was really good, and it's just like, man, like you gotta feel bad for sometimes when people do something that is Golden Demon level, and this was just such a tough one. And that's what I was saying earlier, that it doesn't matter if it didn't get an award, because it's a fantastic duel with the giant, and it's just a shame.
Do you think we'll see some re-entries of stuff that probably that would have placed in a normal year, finally placing in another year, maybe?
I mean, I'm bringing my Techless again. But I put 4 months into that, so if I don't have anything else for open, I'm bringing it back. That's 2 right. Might change some bits, but yeah.
Kingsley's just asked in the chat. Shame we don't get to see more of the runners up. To the best of our knowledge, we've been told by G-Dub, whether it happens or it doesn't, we don't know, but we've been told that there will be galleries going up on the community site which will have the commended entries. So hopefully we will see them.
Do you know, that would help a lot of people's heads. I think that would genuinely help people feel like they've accomplished a bit more, because it can feel like, okay, cool, I've got commended. And I think adding commended is fantastic for people, going up the ladder and feel like they're moving forward. And I think if they just put a picture on the community, it makes it so much better, because people will see it. Because unless we post pictures, or unless people find the accounts and they read, oh, this guy got commended, it's just not there. And I do think it would mean a lot to people if they did that.
Absolutely. And again, just from a pure numbers point of view, we're a tiny little niche podcast of a niche painting channel, a niche part of a larger hobby. A lot of people, Warhammer community might be their only sort of source, mightn't it, for a lot of hobby stuff. So I think shouting about the painting more on there would be wonderful, and we fed that back, and hopefully we see it, don't we?
Some bloody good stuff as well, like in commended, like insanely good stuff. Like Neil's Dark Angel comes to mind. I thought that was definitely in with a win, and basically, long story short, Henry, he got moved to diorama.
Yeah, I heard, yeah.
And I was really gutted for him, because it's his best piece. I was really blown away by how good that Dark Angel was. And when you just like, well done to someone, like you've seen how much work they've put in.
Have you got a photo of it, Matt, or not?
I don't know.
Okay, don't worry. Maybe we'll talk about it in the future. But I think it could, and I'm sure Neil wouldn't mind us talking about it, but we won't for now. But that might be to chat about in the future, about why.
But he needs to re-enter that. He needs to do, and I was really bad for him on the day and talking to him about it. And it's just like, re-enter that on a new base. And I am sure they'll remember and they'll appreciate the fact that he's changed the thing that made them move it. And, they won't be like, oh, this again. I think they'll be like, cool, he's done that. I do think, it was a bit rough to move it, because there's no base restrictions now. And it was fairly big, but it wasn't ridiculous. So it's tough. But I hope he re-enters it on a smaller base, and I hope it wins something, because it was ridiculously good. Yeah, super tight.
Right, what's up next, Matt? Oh yeah. Loving this weirdness.
I thought this was gold for sure, to be honest. But yeah, the other pieces were good.
What for you made you go, oh, that's gold? Because let's be fair, you're getting pretty good at calling things.
Honestly, I think the 40k large, and this isn't detrimental to the winners at all, but it's not the strongest category right now. I actually think it should be merged. That's just my opinion.
Do you know what? I didn't even realise it was separate.
Yeah,
I think it should be merged. I think it should be called. I think it should be a category called monster, because you can compare this to. Well, you can compare this to Marathi, because I'm sure Marathi's in there. It's nice to have a lot of categories, but it could be merged. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought this was insanely creative, brilliant color scheme. It's Nurgle, but it's yellow and purple. I thought the smoke was super cool. I don't know how much of that's sculpted or if it's from something, but I love the smoke, and sculpted smoke's really grown on me, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very, very divisive, wasn't it, when it first came out? I think it might even have been a Dark Angel we first saw it on. Trying to think, there was a backpack on a chaplain in the Dark Vengeance box.
What about the Nurgle little character Typhus?
Yeah,
that's quite early.
And we started seeing these sculpted effects, didn't we? Smoke and then some magic or psychic effects and things like that. But now it's just sort of feels normal now. Do you know what I mean? To see it on, and it's when it's painted like this, it's so cool.
I love Johann's stuff. He's one of the most creative with his conversions. He had a lot of pieces, and they were all really creative. Like his single figure piece is exactly why they should show commended, because it was converted from Abaddon. It was a Nurgle one, and all his face was half rotten. Just brilliant, and we don't get to see that. But yeah, every one of his pieces, the conversion work just blows my mind, to be honest.
Absolutely. We'd love some close-ups of this piece, actually.
he did post some on his account today or late yesterday, something.
Yeah, he's posting all his pieces, isn't he? Nice.
Lovely stuff. Right, moving on. Now here's a piece you were excited about, weren't you, Andy, for seeing?
I knew it was going to win. I saw it in the hand when it was very whip, actually. There wasn't loads done to it, and that was in 2019. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to win whenever he finishes it. And I think he really put everything into it. I think I might have got this wrong. I think this is his first time he's ever done NMM. But Sten's he's just one of those guys that'll just put everything into a miniature. He just wants it to be as best he can. And yeah, I think I think he said something like he'd spend like a week on a boot or something like that. But you could tell. And I love the base, actually. I think it's really nice.
I love the rocks. The rocks are great.
Yeah.
It's got a different vibe, hasn't it?
Paul Bonner base.
Yeah, it's a bit Paul Bonner. I mean, obviously the model itself is quite Hero Quest anyway. But it's got a much older Warhammer fantasy. There's not a huge amount of grimdark to this. Is there? It's this is a barbarian.
Classic fantasy, isn't it? And I love that feel.
I feel like this model's. I think it was popular when it came out anyway. We hadn't seen anything like it when it came out. It came out in Silver Tower, this Warhammer Quest game. We didn't know.
God, I wish I had that game.
It's in the loft, mate. It's good fun. Great models. You can get them all now, I believe. Most of them certainly. But yeah, I think it's slowly, because Max won Open with it, didn't he? Perhaps the year it came out.
Yeah, with the chains that were.
Yeah. And I do.
Not bad.
It's just one of them models that you're like, oh, that's a painter's. And I don't think I'd necessarily have guessed that when I first saw it. But we're starting to see more. And this is an old model now. In GW, if it came out 2 months ago, it's an old model.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the fact that it's still placing, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's no Grok Shaman, but it's still placing after 4 years of being around. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, just meant the standard of this category, though. This was the category. It didn't have the sword in it, but if Clayton's Jewel wasn't there, it had the sword in it, right?
And it should be, right? I think, anyway. I've always felt like single minis or diorama for me is always like that's the categories I think have the most pressure on them to live up, to historically things we've seen, pieces I remember. It's those three categories.
Yeah, it was just a mental one. And yeah, you look at the list of names who didn't place in this category, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's slightly intimidating, but we'll do it anyway. That's my next piece for Golden Demon is AOS single figure. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing to myself, but we're doing it.
Right, what we got up next?
I did have the slides the wrong way around, so this was supposed to be before that one.
There it is. There it is.
You have to enter a new miniature to win, though. Remember?
Oh yeah, and no conversions.
No conversions.
No, only conversion.
No conversions, and has to be brand new out of the packet. Yeah. God, this miniature's still good, isn't it?
One of my favourite things about it is the bone that's off the base, and that's just on the plinth top. Like it smacks of not giving a fuck, and I really like that. Like it's so much attitude in the model. It's brilliant. Yeah,
it's amazing.
This is
brilliant.
Yeah, it was. This was
shits me to tears. I didn't get to see this model in the flesh. It's been one of my favourite models for 25 years or whatever it is since it came out.
Yeah. It's as soon as like I said, Albert moved to London and he was posting this, I was like, well, that's gonna win something, isn't it? This was, I preferred this to his newer one actually, which I know that he was much happier with his 40k piece, but this for me, the palette is just perfect for me. Fantasy palette, it's just amazing.
It's not really much more can say, is there?
I could stare at that for hours. It's so cool.
It's definitely one I want to own. It isn't
I could see that existing in Matt's like hidden vault.
You can't afford it, Matt.
I can afford a lot of things if I put mine to
it. Oh mate, it's so good, and he's teeny tiny.
It's ridiculous, mate.
If it was, did he ever get done in fine cast, or was it all only ever metal? This model as well.
I think metal. Yeah.
Good.
That one's not fine cast. That is metal.
No.
Yeah.
God, the fear of moving around and a like immaculately painted metal model must be enormous.
Apparently, my mic's really bad. Someone said, so I'm moving further away.
I don't know. It sounds like you're clubbing seals whenever you go near the desk.
Does it?
Sounds all right then. Oh, look, coming for the pretty pictures. Don't worry about what we sound like. Oh, speaking of scrap builds and casual,
this was so good.
It's
you can't.
You
can't see it in the pictures that are online, but you can look down the tube, the log, the trunk. There's a squig on the end, and he's throwing all the bones down the other end.
Oh, what you mean the log that's running left to right as we?
It's hollow, and it's like he's throwing all the bones down. It's just brilliant.
I love those kinds of like this feels like, again, like Andy was saying, any other year, I mean, I know Chris obviously won the sword anyway, but it's to take a model like Croak, who was such an epic new model anyway, right? When we first saw that, and then go, I'll just do a new slam.
As you do.
It looks incredible. Lovely, beautiful basing too.
It just makes you wonder, like, what is in his cabinets at home?
Oh my goodness.
Like, well, do you remember his he did one of the little goblins with this same log kind of thing, hollow log, and he didn't even enter that because it's the 3 years had passed, and he did another AOS single figure. But I mean, I'm not lying. My top 3 pieces were all Chris's. Like his AOS single, which is a Lumen F model, so obviously I like that. But this and the Jewel, like all 3, because I'm so into my basing. It was just I love it. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many good models this year.
Silly, isn't it?
Yeah, there's so many good models. And also, like, that's a very busy piece, isn't it? I think to pull off such a busy thing and to use, such vivid colours as well.
Well, only the frog's vivid though, right? That's the clever thing. Is he's gone. Everything's muted, and you got that subtle cold green and the rock, but in general, it's fairly pastel. And then, bam, you get that punch of color on the frog with that magenta as well, and it's very clever.
Absolutely. And do you know if Chris had a favourite piece? Because this was a newer piece, wasn't it? This one.
The giant was the oldest one. I don't know. I think we all assumed it was the giant, but the Lumen F was my favourite.
It's like this is like you saying about Albert preferring his 40k grot to his fantasy grot, even though one place is better than the others. Yeah, it's
knowing Chris, probably his best piece is probably something someone's never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, what's up next?
These
I'm glad these keep popping up.
So good in real life. Just the epitome of heavy metal, just pushed to like the max.
He should get a job there.
Yeah, it was amazing to see these in the cabinets. He did such an amazing job on them. It was interesting because he painted the box art of the Mangler Squigs, but then he was saying on a stream that he just wanted to see how far he could push it, and then that's how far he can push it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
It's the tongue for me. It's the tongue in it. The tongue is mental. Actually, it was really nice to see his photos of it. I think they did it more justice than the cabinet lights. But this was the best example of immaculate heavy metal painting, right?
Yeah.
And like we said, we saw all styles win, and we did see heavy metal style win, and it was this, but it was silver place, and it was nice to have that make up all the different styles that did win, and this is like the definition of the heavy metal style, and it shows how cool the heavy metal style can be as well amongst anything else, which is really cool.
Absolutely. And just mad the amount of quality big models there are now too, right? It's, you think back in the day it was ogre sized or above, right? There's just there's so many large models now, which again I wonder if that appeals to painters that perhaps traditionally spend more time painting larger scale models, so albeit a different scale but a similar mass.
Well, the giant, right? It's too big, that.
Well, that's kind of leads into the next one, because David usually paints quite large things, doesn't he?
I mean, this is exactly like that centaur I did from Terrible Kid stuff. There's barely any difference. It's the same. It's the same pose, and it's the same size. And that was a 75mm mini. But yeah, chuff for Dave to do his first demon and win 2. That was really cool.
We were talking the other day about what is it about Kragnos that appeals to people?
Why does it appeal?
Yeah, why does it appeal so much?
Because it's a centaur.
It's just epic.
But there's a lot of very good painters that I talk to that they all want to have a crack at it. Be interesting to know why.
Mine's on the desk, and I can't tell you why. That's just cool. the horseman.
It is. But yeah, this is great. Like we were saying earlier, to see someone who doesn't traditionally paint a huge amount of Warhammer stuff. Well, certainly recently we haven't seen them paint a huge amount. That they're known for, right?
Yeah.
They're very, very cool to see it in that. So, have we got many more slides of the actual pieces, Matt?
Got like
I've got a couple
four more.
Cool. If you want to
more?
talk about the specific pieces, go for it. But I've got a couple more questions I want to sort of talk to you guys about.
Can't not talk about this one, I suppose.
Oh,
Should we come back? We should come back to it. We should finish. We should finish on this, really.
Yeah.
What's next?
We're gonna make Matt flip through them now.
This was
There you
really
go.
cool.
Oh yeah, a bit forced perspective.
Yeah.
So a piece designed to be looked at from above. Brian carrying on his tradition of placing at Duel for quite a few times now, right?
I was the genuine happiness for him was really quite strong. Because talked to Ryan so much leading up to this, and trying to help him, and sometimes I was a bit worried about saying, I think you should do this. I think you need to start the Warlock from scratch, which is always nervous to tell someone, right? But I think he appreciated it, and I think he was nervous, and he just put so much work into this that he was just going to be disappointed if he didn't win, which is always horrible. And Jewel was just absurdly strong. But it was so great to see this appreciated, because it was one of the most creative things. It's forced perspective. You've got the broken glass, a lot of pretty crazy stuff. It wasn't two Space Marines pointing at each other from very far away, which is always good.
His like yell when he won, like just the sheer relief in his voice. You could hear it. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, fair play to him for doing something very brave. That's what I said at the start. As people were braver, there is not a chance I would do anything like this. Not a chance. So
I don't think it would even occur to me to do that with the force perspective. Right? Where did that come from? Genius.
I'm just trying to stay in the line still for me. But loads of people loved it. That was what was cool for me is just hearing people I didn't know, randoms, and they were like, "That's my favorite," or "That's epic," and I was like, "That's so cool to get that reaction." So, and again, it shows that they award creativity, and there's different emphasis in different categories. So yeah, very important to see it win in the Golden Demon, because it shows how they're open, and very pleased for him.
Yeah,
just
super cool.
Quickly, I wanted to just recognise the insanity that was the Youngbloods category.
100%.
Yeah,
that's what you want to see.
Like for me, all of looking at the Youngbloods cabinet was just insanity. Some of that stuff was, this piece here is just bonkers. So good. Just mind blown, really.
If I could paint like that at 16 and under, I'd be very bloody happy.
I'd be chuffed with that now.
Yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it?
It's cool. I think it's nice just to see people interested in it, because it's been worrying sometimes, because the Youngbloods category, to be honest, has been not enough people in it, and that is worrying, I guess, when you care about this stuff. And it was amazing. And again, this was a brave piece. This orc with a backdrop, I was like, well, that's better than the two backdrops I've done for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's really, really, really nice to see, wasn't it?
It's really heartening to see it, isn't it? It's just really cool.
And the atmosphere, and when the awards were going off, was so great that I hope those guys that won and the Youngbloods that maybe didn't win were like, it's worth putting the effort in, and because people really, really care about it. So that was cool.
Absolutely. And I know we actually wanted to do a bit more coverage with the Youngblood stuff, but we ran into a couple of hurdles with that. But hopefully, the next one we'll have those ironed out where we're able to do what we were wanting to do. But yeah, it's occasionally you get a Youngbloods piece, don't you, that stands out. But a few of you have said, and other people that have went, that it was just like, that was a really strong category. It happened to be Youngbloods, but it was a really good, like, just a very good category. Now, you referenced this one earlier for very atypical for a Golden Demon type. Or people might assume is a Golden Demon type piece, right? So just quickly, the open competition. What's the deal?
It were mental. That was
staff can enter, correct?
Yeah, it's basically it is Golden Demon, but it sits outside the Golden Demon Awards. It kind of runs alongside it, but staff can enter. You can basically do whatever the hell you want.
It's different awards as well, right?
Yeah, little plaques.
Even down to that little plaques, isn't it?
And you just you get to go up against some nice chilled paint jobs from people like Darren. Nothing major. just got to go up against those guys and Aidan and Max when they're not judging. Yeah, very chill. And Tom now as well. Really cool to see him enter. I've always loved Tom's sculpts. Sculpt for Specialist Games. I don't know if he's moved now or anything like that. But it's super cool to see the sculptors showing off, right? It's what you want.
It's just crazy.
Could you, Matt, you'll know this one. Does a piece have to be painted to go into Golden Demon?
I think in the 2019 rules pack, there was nothing about having paint on it. But in this one, it does say it has to be painted.
That's okay. I was wondering, because if this is where we could start seeing greens and prints.
I kind of wish they would do a greens category, but I think the problem you'd have is that it just wouldn't have that many things in it.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of what they.
But that's what I say, like stick it in open.
Yeah. I mean, maybe get rid of the has to have paint on it and put it in open and see what happens.
You're right. I've just seen in the chat, Father Son Minis. Ping me a message when you get a chance here or on Insta or whatever. We've got some things to send you and your lad. So yeah, congratulations on him getting. And I think you got a commendation as well, didn't you? Lovely to see sort of a family enjoying the hobby together. So hit me up. I've got some bits and bobs to send you guys.
That's a good point, actually. 2 entered his diorama without having a miniature on it. So
oh yeah, right.
Yeah, and it is there.
It's over Andy's shoulder. So it doesn't have to have a model, but it does have to be painted, right? Yeah. Okay.
But, that was the sculpt. And it was just all done in ZBrush and just bloody huge. Like I wasn't expecting it to be so massive when it was it was just massive and painted in a very
big, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's the head.
yeah. But that's really cool. Like I can't think of having seen other than when we sometimes see those like. They released that, like, I don't know what you call it, but when it's like pre-painted and you buy it.
McFarlane models.
Yeah, but they did a really big Deathwing Terminator over the last few years. A couple of gaming stores have got them on the desks and stuff. But other than that, I've never really seen properly big Warhammer stuff. It's really cool to see it, like, because that's pretty gnarly. That, like, obviously the paint is fantastic. It's like when you see them creepy, like, ultra realistic figurines, isn't it, with the skin and everything?
Darren Han ones
makes you get uncomfortable. Like it's very cool.
Well, it looks more like a face than my actual face.
Right.
He said he watched I think is it Sideshow Collectibles tutorials, I think he said.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So fair play to him for smashing it on the paint and the sculpt. That's just scary, isn't it?
And I've seen something so familiar, but presented in a different way. Like, how many Fire Warriors have you seen?
Well, but also Tau have often suffered, haven't they, from being, they don't look like anything else in Warhammer. It's anime, it's Gundam, it's whatever, right? There's been pushback against Tau since they ever came out. And you'll often hear people comment on, "Oh, it's a grim dark Tau. I really like seeing Tau done in dark, whatever, you know." But it's this really helps set them in the universe for me. Seeing a piece like this. I don't know. You love your battered Tau, don't you, Andy? You love your weathering up your Tau and things.
See, anyway, mate, don't edge highlight your Tau, kids.
It's nice to he sort of the paint style is so different as well. Like it's
you have to for this size,
yeah,
though,
Size
right?
of the model, though, right? Because it's starting to create its own
I mean,
shadows and things like that.
It must have been an absolute nightmare to try and paint the thing, trying to just hold parts of it.
Still reckon it was easier than my tech list, to be fair.
Easier to hold. Someone just asked in the chat, we mentioned the McFarlane models, which are those sort of posable G.I. Joe sort of sized collectibles. And actually, you know, there's remember they brought out the little bobblehead things, what are they called? Not chibis, the bigger things. I've got one on the window back there. I can't think what it's called.
Funko Pop.
That's it, Funko Pops. Could you enter things like that in Golden Demon? Would that go in open?
Yeah, you might not win. You don't know what you want, mate. You just might not. You just might not get one. Well, you know, Comrade entered a sprue once.
Right.
He didn't get anything, but he entered it.
But yeah, I think that's open just feels like it could be a really crazy category. Not to me, open sometimes feels a little bit like it's the GW staff category. Whereas I wish it felt more like the very out there category, you know.
I think though, because they can only do one entry, they're going to put everything into it. Like, I think the scary thing is Tom's already started his next one, right? And it's like he's not going to do any other mini. It's just gnarly. Like I know I've got about 1 billion projects planned for various things, and I'm like, yeah, like if I was only doing one thing for one comp, it's so different.
What's quite cool about this piece is that because obviously he 3D printed it himself. Like 2019, 3D printing really wasn't like home printing wasn't up to the point where this was really doable unless you had a very expensive printer. But like I think he said he used, was it the Frozen 8K one?
Really?
Yeah. And that's like
I think I'm gonna have to buy that.
It's expensive, yeah, but it's not unaffordable now.
600 quid, not 20k.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I'm conscious of the time, and obviously I don't mind us going longer on this episode because it is something we've been looking forward to for ages, and we won't talk about GD for a while. But I want to make sure we got some time to natter about the sword winner.
It's crazy.
It was quite good.
Shall we whiz back to it?
We're on it.
Here we are. That teach me to look at the right screen. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've popped the interview out. Really fab interview Andy did with Chris minutes after he'd won the sword. We've frantically got phones going, can we get it? Can we get this interview? Yeah, can we do it? But no, you can't do it. We were planning to stream the awards, and then we got told at the last minute we can't stream them. You know, there was all sorts of things going on, which obviously, you know, everyone on social media was completely understanding of. So thanks for that. But we did manage to get him an Avanata, but no social media accounts. You know, a known quantity, you know, a person who's placed often in the past, and then you show up on the Friday or whatever it was, don't you? And I think within about half an hour of you being there, I've got a message from Andy saying, "Oh, here's the sword winner." You know, and it was this mini in the cabinet.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
No, the way he like conceived in his like mind to pour the resin, like, I would have never even thought of step one.
That's what happens when you can do everything.
Yeah.
It's worth saying, you know, Chris is a very talented sculptor as well. I mean, he sculpted our first ever miniature. He sculpted another brilliant sci-fi bust that a lot of people are familiar with. So he's not only a superb painter, but he is a top tier sculptor. You know, so he's coming in as a threat, right?
He's not engineer as well.
The best story for me is when he didn't like any of the gold paints, so he made his own gold paint.
crushing down. Yeah.
Oh my god! What are you supposed to do with that?
What do you do? Like,
Yeah, I didn't like any gold, so I made one. All right, cool.
Just
Chill.
alchemist.
But that's it,
Um,
right? That's what you want to hear about. That's the stories that you want, to be behind the winners.
The only sort of sad thing is I know he nuked all his social media. I think that is not being able to see pictures potentially of it in other forms like angles and stuff. It's the only sort of sad part, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I was happy. I was happy that there was zero negativity around this winning, and I think for the people that saw the skink in real life, they're like, "That's amazing." But I think we can't lie. People online didn't get it, but that's because they didn't see it in real life and they don't understand how perfect the painting was. But anyway, everyone was like, "Yeah." That's the best thing I've ever seen, which is
was
really
insane
lovely
as well. Like just the foot.
It was interesting saying in the interview about that magnifying effect of the resin pores as well. Like
the heel
you
is
can't
so
see
well
it from
done,
this
dude.
picture, but the fish that's on the left there is one of my favorite. Just screaming. But yeah, hopefully we see that in some other shots. But there's it's again, it's you show someone, they go, "Oh, what's this Warhammer thing?" Show them that model and they'll probably get it, won't they? And I think that's always a big thing. That to me is and what you were saying, the spirit of Warhammer thing. You reckon this would probably have a
it would be double People's Choice Slayer Sword, Spirit of Warhammer, the Muggle Award, all of them.
So someone's asked in the chat, is that a bigger foot or is it the effect of the resin? That's the foot. Yeah, it's
just the lensing.
Because obviously, when you're a wizard, you can also pour perfect resin.
Well, it's like the way he poured it is just mental.
He sculpted it, didn't he?
Yeah, he painted all the base. I think he said he cut the giant off at the ankles. Sculpted the waves, made a cast of that, turned it upside down, put it all in a vacuum tube, and then poured it through a hole in the bottom of the plinth.
Yeah, all right, cool. Chill.
And then,
just to have a skill
we're
set,
sat here with our plastic cups trying not to glue our fingers together as we put as it's seeping out the tape. Yeah.
Just
the article for how he built the Hush bust. I just showed loads of people that, and it's one of the best hobby articles ever. It starts off as a block of tin foil with some fingers made out of wire, and then it ends up with the most perfectly painted thing as well. It's sculpting the whole thing, casting the thing, because he made a visor out of milliput, cast it clear resin, coloured it, and it's just one of the best reads you'll ever get. So yeah, that's mental.
Hobby wizard.
Yeah. And again, then just disappears off into the night. Someone was saying on Instagram, disappears off to his GQ cover shoot, whatever it was.
It's actually sort of quite cool because this is his first Slayer sword as well. So,
and you wonder why he hasn't done it before, but I think he's always done amazing pieces, but there's just something about it, right? I think it's the narrative.
It's very attention grabbing, this piece, isn't it? I think
it's because it's a jewel.
They were cool, right? It is a jewel, but it's the giant. It's the Kraken Eater model, isn't it? Like I
but
get
it's a fight, right?
It is a fight, and all the rest of it. But it's more like a perfect snapshot of that character, isn't it? And that model.
Well, it's like what he was saying in the interview. He wanted to know why that giant had all of the like nautical stuff, the nets, the like all that stuff, which was so just the whole thing, narrative behind it, just kind of makes it like just so much better.
You could you could imagine you'd read the army book and it would tell you about the Kraken Eater giant, and then you'd have some beautiful piece of artwork.
Little
next
black
to
and
it.
white.
This could be that, couldn't it? You know, it is a duel, but it's a duel. It's just him doing. It's the character doing what he does, right? It's not two adversaries in the sense of, you know, a knight and an orc, you know, a Skaven dude and whatever. It's just really, it's about the giant, and it's just this poor Hydra or whatever. It's not the Hydra, is it?
Yep.
But you know, it's this poor critters getting well eaten.
Getting stomped.
Yeah. So it's just, yeah. I'm really pleased that, given the pressure on this event, not just from the fact that it's been a few years since the last one, but it is the 35th. There was the somewhat manufactured drama about it being, you know, a Warhammer World and all these sorts of things. I'm so pleased that the sword is this. You know, as you've said, Andy, it's unequivocal. You know, it's praise of it. Yeah, everybody's happy. Right? Even Dave Soper, I imagine, is happy that this has won the sword, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a year when you've got Dave, you've got Chris, you've got Maxime Pinot, you've got Albert. Watching those boys fight it out was quite nice for me. I was like, I'm glad I'm not in a running for this one. It's like,
it's exciting, not even
though, man. Thinking about it.
It's exciting, you know. We have had that few years break, and in that few years we have started this podcast, and we have talked about this a lot more than just amongst ourselves. So it's great that it's living up to that excitement, isn't it? And I suppose in that is a way to sort of close out the conversation. It feels like it more than lived up to its billing, right? You know, the 35th anniversary of Golden Demon, a one-off event. Could Games Workshop's communication have been better about things? Of course it could. You know,
yes, please.
It usually applies to just about everything they do. But you know, we already know now that next year it's going to return at Warhammer Fest, so it'll be the same as it's been traditionally. The fact that the tickets were limited doesn't seem to have had an impact, does it, on the quality of the entrance? There's certainly nobody that I know spoken to that who genuinely wanted to be there wasn't able to get there. Obviously illness and things like that aside. The judging as well. I quite like that Games Workshop have now, and this was something you said at the very beginning of the chat, Andy, was this, you know, it shows that the judges are open to this and that. It is a different judging team than to what it's been in years past, because various staff have moved on and things like that. But I really like the idea of the studio, as it were, becoming like the Academy with the Academy Awards. You know, the fact that you know that it's not just one heavy metal painter's point of view and one lore writer's point of view, this, that, and the other. You know, we have in the past, we've said that we liked the fact that Golden Demon brought those elements to it, right? But now that we know it's voted for by a committee of, you know, the studio, those incredible painters, you know, the heavy metal guys and girls, it's just great. I hope it continues like that. I really do. I think it gives a lot of validity to it all.
I think with
Gareth Nicholas, that would.
Yeah, I think with this one, I know there was a lot of not, you know, people weren't super happy with like the limited ticket situation and all that, but I don't think it would have been as good had it been at a Warhammer Fest. I think that 35th Gold Demon, you know, is a niche within the hobby. It just would have been completely overshadowed by everything else that would have been going on at a Warhammer Fest. You wouldn't have had the 35th display. None of that stuff would have been there. It would have been...
It deserved it.
Yeah, it really needed that sort of focused, sort of small event sort of feel to it, which, you know...
It was amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, that's really good to hear.
It's just, I was thinking, you know, for those lucky enough to go, it was so cool because you had the museum at hand. You had, you know, Bugman's, which you don't get the food there, but it's a nice place to chill out. And it was just really cool. The only shame is not everyone could go, but I really would love to know if it was unlimited tickets, how many they would have done.
I completely.
Because would it be what,
Yeah.
another 200 people?
This is and the conversation. Well, I think we've given it time. We've recognised it, but also it's. I think it is time to move on from it in the sense of it's the situation was what it was, and we've ended up with a phenomenal show. I say sadly I wasn't able to make it, but it looked like the event ran well. It looked like the awards generally went well. There was lots of people there for the ceremony. We're going to have a film out later this week about our experiences there with some interviews and the awards footage and things like that. So hopefully you'll be able to get a bit of a sense of the vibe. But I think you're right. I think for the 35th celebration, I think it was a damn good venue for it.
It was lovely. It was mental. I felt like I didn't stop because we were interviewing people a lot, but it was really nice time.
Quickly then, have you started your next pieces for we're waiting any day now? We're going to hear, right, when
they're behind my headrest.
Next year's is, right? It's been announced. It's at Warhammer Fest. I don't think we've been given a month yet, have we? We've not been given a date officially.
I mean, if you look,
I've got the rumours that I'm not going to spread.
It's coming soon, right? So who's working on what?
Yeah,
Are you working on something, Matt?
Yeah.
We know you are.
Yeah, I'm going full in on diorama this time. No sitting between two categories and then not being able to decide which one to enter.
Good man, I like it. Ben, you've not entered for a few years, but did it get you
100%
your hobby balls?
Yeah, so the atmosphere of it being so concentrated was really, really infectious. And I was just sitting there looking at all this amazing stuff in the cabinets going, no, I couldn't have competed with that, but I wish I had something in them. Yeah. So that's going to get rectified. I've got a few ideas sort of percolating. I'm going to let them sort of come to fruition a bit better and a bit clearer, and then get started. I don't want to just jump straight into something, finish it in a month, go, whatever. I want to actually really get into the spirit of it and enjoy the process rather than just pushing for the finished piece.
That I think is a very good point, isn't it? Try and enjoy the journey. Now, Andy, obviously you paint for all competitions, but was there anything in addition that you're now going to yourself to work on after being there for that weekend?
Yes. Yeah, I think I already built my pieces for 2023 before this one, and it's cool. It's cool going and getting the motivation. But I already had the idea there, already built, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to do the same pieces I planned, but I'm going to do them. I've got my mindset changed. I'm doing that Lord of the Rings mini now, and that was always supposed to be for Adepticon. When I bought the model, it was for Adepticon. I just so happened to start it before this one, and I enjoyed people thinking I was going to do it in a week. I'm not going to lie, that was fun psyching people out. But going to this one and working on that and seeing the level has been really helpful for my mindset, because I'm pushing myself more again. And so, yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, doing Slanesh for the first time. So there you go.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Henry,
I'm really looking forward.
You gonna enter?
Yeah. Come on.
Yes, you are.
I'll admit, like I did Demon a while ago. It went well, but I did not enjoy the experience. There's no two ways about it.
So different now.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the process. I didn't enjoy, even though I said it went very well and it sort of led on to this whole career. But it's yeah, I'm not sure. I admit I got a few tingles, like
small scale
hearing you guys.
Paint a tank for you and paint your best. That you just got to paint your best ever tank.
I think that's it, and I think it will be very much if I have a piece that I think is. If a month or two out, I've got a piece that I think is worth displaying, I will push myself to make sure that piece is there. I think it's probably the most I will commit to on that. But
I'm
just
gonna
going to
buzz
tag you. Poke you.
So I think before we close out, finally, my dog's just come in to tell me it's we've already overrun. I did want to say thanks to Games Workshop for it. Obviously, we have a working relationship with them with other things, but this was very much, we'd got our tickets, talking about things. I thought I'd just drop them an email and see if they're interested in us doing it, and it was great that they were willing to work with it. And as I say, we didn't get all the footage and all the coverage we hoped, but we certainly got plenty. So you guys can see seeing that towards the end of the week as well. Right, let's have a look at what the PaintCultists have been up to.
So first,
hashtag PaintCultists. Jump on Insta. There's, I don't know, 14,000 something like that tags on there at the moment with this. A great way to expose yourself to different paint styles, to different manufacturers, different accounts. I think it's about the only hashtag I follow. It's really good fun. And all we do is pick a handful each episode and just have a quick chat about them. And I have no recollection of what I picked for this one, so it will be a surprise to me as it is to you.
Whoa!
Oh yeah!
Oh, come on!
How cool is that?
Love.
Yeah.
Want it?
Yeah, love.
Just super cool. Miniatures are art. No arguments. Yeah.
God, I want to own that. That's cool.
Yeah,
very
I agree.
cool.
Yeah,
Although a TIE fighter pilot would never crash. So
blow up.
Is that an X-wing one?
Size wise, I think so. Yes.
Such a good use for it, basing it.
Absolutely. And also, like, you haven't got to worry about your resin having bubbles in when you use it like that, have you?
Yeah, loads of colour. Thanks for
mix in loads of dark
thanks for
crap.
bringing that to our attention.
bubble. But yeah, just what a lovely little thing to have on your shelf that would be. So yeah, back in. What's that next, Matt?
Whoa.
Oh, I love these. I've got to try and remember now. The person says in the account, in the description, I think this was something that they'd finished making like 10 years ago or something like that. And the other day we're like, oh, I need to actually get this finished up. And it's obviously it's the trolls from The Hobbit, Bilbo meets, and it was just. Again, I think as I was looking through these, picking them, I think in my mind, like once I'd seen that TIE fighter one, I was off on a sort of not nostalgia thing, but it's great to have seen all these Golden Demon stuff, right? Which is painted to the nth degree, put forward to be judged and critiqued and all the rest of it by this. I thought it's also worth remembering, that a lot of people, they love it to have things just to look at and make them smile, isn't it, on the shelf? And both these pieces, this and the TIE fighter, just cool.
Well said. That's all minis are for, being cool.
Very fun, isn't it? And this is often how our behind the scenes chats tend to go for what we're coming up with for episodes of things as well, stuff like that. So can appreciate the energy of these lads on here. What's on next? Oh yeah. Oh. Oof.
Golden Demon entry.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah. Just chef's kiss. I would never do something like this, and I'm so glad someone else has. So I can look at it.
I'd like to see a Cult of Paint miniature done by this chap.
Absolutely.
Maybe from an upcoming Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Yeah. This isn't the account the other week that I picked that tiny
yellow
thing from. Oh, which my favourite thing of the year. That's nice. Oh, that might explain why I picked this one. And again as well. So this was at GD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
very vivid in real life.
It's my favourite Stormcast model as well. That the flag.
It was really good.
Real heroic. I know there's a little bit of conversion, but yeah, really nice. Just so colourful. Just wonderful. Wonderful. One or two more? Sorry, Matt, you were saying?
Two more.
Didn't mean to cut you off then, but...
Was it Ben? I bet you can say something?
No? Oh, just say I love it. I think it's great. It's really inspirational. Love it. Just mumbling.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in this episode. Right, let's go. Two to go. It's just brilliant.
Very good.
Here he is.
The real winner of Golden Demon.
The real winner.
Yeah.
Painted from his yacht in the Caribbean. His
Yeah.
Yacht.
one.
It's going to be in one of those Abramovich yachts soon.
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't seen too much of the stuff from the small scale. I saw the 3 winners, but I haven't seen anything else in there. And yeah, obviously I got a lot of love for Titanicus anyway. Yeah, Tara's a cracking painter.
He likes a bit of self-pain with this one because he decided to paint it 7-8 days out.
Was very last minute, wasn't it? Yeah.
Something nonsense. Yeah.
There's a lot of panels on this one.
His jewel was fantastic. And that's another example of we need to see the commended, and I think it's his best piece. And it's yeah, it was great, that jewel. But yeah, what a force! Best plimps in town.
Great fun to build this MIDI too.
Is it?
Yeah, the 2 newest Titan models they're great. They feel like old proper model kits, if that makes sense.
I ain't ever doing it.
I haven't got the weird the we were saying the new GW thing where it's like Earthworm Jim's head that you then put a face on and a hat on and all the rest of it. It comes into a face like it's. This is a lot more like old Airfix almost. It's.
They're all the like the CAD models, like they do like the Forge World stuff. They just shrink it down. Yeah.
But of course, I mean this could never be a resin model.
Why not?
You're not trying hard enough.
It would be the size of a 7-year-old.
I'm 3D printing it, mate.
Yeah, of course you are.
I mean, the Warlord is pretty big. Like that's a toddler-sized model.
Yeah, right. And this thing dwarfs the Warlord.
I mean,
dwarfs it.
If someone's got the credit card limit, you might as well.
It's true. Yeah, I do remember them saying they never expected to sell enough Warlords, and then whatever it was, they passed 2,000 on the first day, whatever. Yeah,
they've done 2,000.
Oh gosh, way more than that. That was like the first day pre-orders or something went up. It was mad. Yeah,
they're just not for me. Shout out to Rich as well. I've got his. He's left his Golden Demon entry here. Yeah, it's right above me here. It was brilliant, and fair play to him. I want to see him back and entering. And
absolutely. Get well soon, bud. He's like many people come down with a lurgy after that weekend. So
yep,
that'll be the Pit and Pendulum. So
we told him not go in there.
On this, so partly I really just love this piece in general, but it is nice when we hear people sort of say, "Oh, thanks, I was following this tutorial from Cult of Paint and it made me try this." And this person mentioned that they tried the backdrop that Andy had done a while ago on our Woodsman figure from the Daguard range. Yeah, Liam had done it on this super cool. Is it a car array model?
I don't know how you say it. I've been calling it a Kellar.
That company. Cool model. What a scene. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Big fan. So there is tons of this stuff on the PaintCultists hashtag. So if you want to go check it out and then give those accounts a follow, please do. If you want to get in touch with us, we're on all the usual different social media places. There's also a Discord, which we think is all the kinks are ironed out of now. Todd, I think, is in the chat as well, runs that for us. So go and use it. Make of it what you want. And yeah, we'll
stop messaging me about it.
Have some fun with it. So yeah, if you do ever want to get in touch with us, topics, pick guests you'd like us to have on, things like that, then just hit us up on any of those things and we'll find you. So thank you very much, chaps, for joining me and letting me into a glimpse of what it was like for the weekend.
We missed you lots, especially when my voice gone, and I was like, "Can you tell me about your entry?"
I certainly don't want to repeat the last 2 weeks. Put it that way. But I think brilliant coverage. I'm very excited for all of you watching to see the footage that's been put together and that we're releasing later in the week. It's going to be super cool. Again, thanks to GW for letting us do it, but also massive thanks to all of you for supporting this podcast and the channel in general, because you then give us the weight behind to go and ask to be able to go and do these things and cover these things. So it's very much down to your efforts that we've to get along with it. So thanks, chat, very much for joining us. If you're watching this back, you know, all the usual subscribe, like, and all the rest of it. Thanks ever so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.